Welcome back to Sittin with Sam. Today we're going to continue talking about building a team of elders and evangelists in our churches. We began this conversation last time, and we want to dig a little deeper and talk about the importance of elders and evangelists seeking advice from one another and opening their hearts to one another. Before we can lead the church, we got to kind of tend to each other a little bit. So let's start off reading some scriptures on the topic.
Okay, let's read some verses about it. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. That's Proverbs chapter 15, verse 22. And now another verse in Proverbs. Listen to advice and accept instruction, and in the end you will be wise. That's Proverbs chapter 19, verse 20. And then one more. Make plans by seeking advice. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 18.
Okay.
Obviously, we need to get and give advice from and for each other as elders and evangelists.
Yeah. Dad, I mean, pretty familiar with these scriptures. I've preached these scriptures many times. I'm sure most elders and evangelists have taught these scriptures. We tend to teach these scriptures to younger Christians.
Right.
We think, this is for those who are immature. They need a lot of advice. But you're applying this to elders and evangelists here. So why? You want to talk about that?
Well, even as those who lead as elders and evangelists, we need advice on how we go about leading, how to help people, how to build a particular ministry situation or whatever. We need to get advice. We need to give advice. So let's seek it, and let's also, as we'll talk about in a moment, give it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am often, surprised by the feedback I get when I do ask my leadership team for their input on a direction or a decision. I tell you, especially this past year during the pandemic, there were several times where Lisa and I were trying to make a decision, and I thought I knew what everyone would feel, but then I asked people, well, are you comfortable meeting? Are you not comfortable? What do you think we should do? And it turns out I didn't quite have my finger on the pulse of the church the way I thought I did. And the feedback was helpful. It kind of guided my decision. What about when we're giving advice to one another as elders and evangelists? How can we do that in a way that's helpful?
Well, as you said, we need to seek advice. We need to be open to be humbly receiving it and praying to God for guidance as we get it. But then as we give it, we need to do so in a humble, loving, and caring manner, realizing, okay, God's going to guide us all on this. So let's do so, let's give it in a humble and loving and caring manner and help each other to build a good, wise thing. I think about all the times I received advice, how much it helped me as an elder and as an evangelist, and giving it to other people helped them too.
Mm-hmm. We've got an article on this topic that we're going to be putting out here, but we also have another article that's a little bit of a different emphasis. We're talking about advice, but then in your next write-up here is more about awareness, self-awareness. So, Dad, what's the difference here between seeking advice in our leadership team and then what you're talking about here with having helping one another to have self-awareness?
Yeah. Seeking and getting advice as we're leading a particular group or doing a certain thing is just how to specifically carry out something to help the church. But helping each other in personal spiritual growth is different. That's knowing our old self and knowing our weaknesses and being aware of our particular challenges. And we all have them. Think about all of Jesus' 12 apostles. They had to deal with things throughout his time with them. We as elders and evangelists will have to continue to deal with our weaknesses, our old self.
Yeah.
And I can read the passage about that. It says in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 22 through 24, you were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. So as disciples of Christ throughout our lives, we need to work on dealing with our old self. And as leaders and elders and evangelists, we'll need to deal with our old self.
Perhaps it's even more important for elders. And again, I think we can tend to think, well, this is for those who are immature. They just became a Christian. They're still dealing with their old self. No. Perhaps this is more important for leaders. Why?
Well, as leaders, we are going to be challenged many times to have Satan will try to hurt us, to make us mess up and hurt people and fall short of being like Christ. So we need to be aware of any area where we're falling short of being like Christ as leaders and elders.
Yeah, it affects more people.
Yes.
Our old self has a detrimental effect on even more people.
Yes.
And so, Dad, what have you seen? I mean, you've been in the ministry serving as an elder and an evangelist for decades now. What have you seen happen when leaders don't get open about their old self issues?
They can really be making serious mistakes that are hurting the church, setting a bad example for the church. And it's taking them down, but they may not realize it. They may not see, they're unaware of it. But it's really taking them down. I've seen it actually take some leaders completely out of leadership. It really undid them completely. I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
And I'm praying to God that I'll be humbled myself and all that. I've tried to be, but I've seen some of my fellow brothers that failed completely.
Yeah, that's a kind of a scary and sobering thought as a leader. Is I don't want to be among those who become too big for my britches, but that I can't hear, from others about my old self issues. Something here in the article I'll just read. Churches don't want perfect leaders. They want humble, growing leaders. And that gives me hope.
They know we're not perfect. So if they know we see our own imperfections, it helps them to follow us better. And it helps them also to deal with their own weaknesses.
Yeah. And I've seen that. I think the more open and honest I am with those around me and even with my congregation, the more supported I am. The more people get behind me. And, I think about Jesus when he came to the earth. He said, the one time he described himself, he said, I'm humble and gentle in heart. He used the word humble. Some of the issues that we need to be open about, our struggles with anger, our speech, love, our struggles with love, our lack of compassion, our lust, struggles with lust. Dad, you want to comment on any of those things?
Anger, it says, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. Don't give the devil a foothold. That's Ephesians 4:26-27. And then Ephesians 4:31. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. As leaders, we can get angry. We can get angry with people. We can be harsh with them. So let's deal with our anger. Speech, just in how we talk to people, that's important. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 and 30 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. As leaders, we need to be careful how we talk to people in our speech. And of course, we know all about love. We're to love others and be loving and caring. There's plenty of verses on that. You can read Ephesians 4:32 and 5 and 1 and 2 yourself. And dealing with lust. Oh my, as men, we can be tempted with lust. And what does the Bible say about that? But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body be thrown into hell. Matthew 5:28-29. As leaders, let's be sure to deal with any lust we might be having. with women in our church or women outside the church or whatever. So let's treat people with purity. And that's what it says in 1 Timothy 5:1-2. Treat them with purity.
Yeah. And then one last verse here in closing. I love this one. I'll just quote just a little phrase here. 1 Timothy 4. Paul is talking to the young leader, Timothy. And he says, so that everyone may see your progress. We preach a lot of sermons as evangelists. We teach a lot of lessons as elders. But perhaps the biggest sermon we're preaching is just our own life. And the way we grow, people see it. Yes. We want them to see it, that we're actually growing. And that's honestly, something that I remember growing up in your house, Dad. As I became a disciple as a teenager, I became more and more aware of, I could see how you continue to grow spiritually. Right. You kept working to grow, and that was evident to me as your son, and I think to the whole congregation. Everyone can see our progress.
As people see us being aware of our weaknesses and challenges and growing spiritually, it'll help them follow us. It'll help us. It won't make us not good leaders. They'll say, "Oh, you're growing as a leader. You're growing as a disciple." It'll help them also to grow, and we should help each other to grow spiritually as elders and evangelists.
Yeah. I find most of my sermons, certainly my best sermons, come from the ones that have to do with whatever I've been growing in lately. I'm really preaching to myself.
Really helps us be good leaders when people see that we are working on our own growth.
Amen. Amen. Well, may this encourage all of you as we try, imperfectly, but we strive to build up God's church together as a team.
Yes.